Hello friends, welcome back to Aunt Debbie's Boutique. Today we're going to make a Christmas table runner, and this is a pattern that's been sitting in my head for a while, and we're going to try it today. I have not sewn one like this before, so let's hope it works out. I apologize if you're seeing some spots of light here. It's coming in from a window and I couldn't get it to, I couldn't figure out how to block it, so I'll try to stay out of it, but there is a little bright spot right there. What we're going to need is 3 dark prints and 4 light prints. And each one of these is going to be a Christmas tree, except the ones on the end are really going to be half of a Christmas tree. I only had 2 light prints, so I am doing every other one the same. What you're going to do is cut 2.5-inch strips. This would be perfect pattern for a jelly roll because you can get it out of each one of these out of 2 strips. Or less actually. So you could, most jelly rolls have 2 strips of the same fabric on at least some of them. But you're going to cut a 16-inch length, a 14, a 12, a 10, an 8, a 6, and a 4. So for each one, you're going to cut that. Now we're going to start at the top of our runner, and so the dark trees are going to go to the top. So I am going to flip over the light trees because I'm going to need the longest piece first on those. And on the dark ones, I'm going to need the short piece. So what I'm going to do is take a short piece and then take a long piece and I'm going to right here is the end. I put them at a right angle to each other. So this one's going down and this one's going across. And then I'm going to want to draw a line from this corner over to this corner right at the edge of this. Now, you don't have to draw a line, or you can draw a line. I usually just use my sewing machine, the lines on my sewing machine to line up, to sew half square triangles like this. But it's probably easier and more accurate if you draw a line. Then I'm going to take it to the machine. I'm going to sew that line. And then it's going to peel back like this and be a straight piece. I'm going to cut off this excess and just leave a 1/4 seam. And once I've done, I don't know if this is showing up in there. Let me kind of lay it here in the middle more. So I stitch that seam. I'll trim it to a 1/4 inch and open it up. Then I'm going to take the next piece. I'm going to lay it here on the other end, and I'll draw a line again from this corner to this corner. I'll stitch that, trim it to 1/4 inch, then I'll open it up. And this will be the top point of our dark Christmas tree. Then I'm going to go to the next one, the next dark one, and put it here. And I'm just going to go down the line using the longest light color, the shortest dark color, longest light, shortest dark, all the way down the row. So let me go sew this first row, and then we'll talk about what our next steps are. Now that I've sewn the points of my 3 dark trees, I'm going to iron them. And these are what is known as flying geese. So if you're familiar with that term, that's what this first row is. Now I'm going to turn it over to the back, and I'm going to just iron the seams outward. And I'm going to go ahead and iron it again on the front. Okay, we're going to lay our first row aside and go to our second row. So I'm going to take the second longest white piece or light piece and the second shortest dark piece, and I'm going to do the same thing on both ends and go across and do our second row. So join me at the sewing machine. Now that I've sewn the second row, I'm going to trim them. I didn't trim as I go this time. Then I'm going to iron it. And once again, I'm going to iron them so the dark tree is opened on the back. Iron it towards the light, which is not what they tell you to do. You're supposed to iron towards the dark, but on that flying goose you can't do the point. Okay, now we can make all the strips and then put it together, but I want to put it together as I go, therefore I'm not all confused about what strips go where. So what I'm going to do is fold and mark the center of each one of my dark trees. On both rows. And now I'm not putting in a real heavy crease, just a light crease, so I can tell where the center is, and we're gonna iron it out later. We don't want it to be a permanent crease. Okay, now that I have the center marked on each tree, this is, turn it so you can see it better. This is how it's going to go. So we're going to put right sides together, and I'm going to line up my creases So I know that I have the center of the tree nice and straight. And then I'm going to make everything else fit. So I just kind of give them a little tug to make everything fit. Now the ends are going to be like this because I didn't figure out exactly how to, we'll trim that all off in the end. So now I'm going to take it over the machine and sew 1/4 inch seam all the way down this side. Now that I've sewn them together, I'm going to iron it first from the back and iron all the seams up. Doesn't matter which way you iron them, up or down. Just be consistent. It'll make the back look better. Now give it a nice press on the front. Okay, this tree looks a little bit off. It's a little bit longer on this side than this side. So I'm going to rip it out from about here to here and stretch it a little better and make it work. Okay, it looks a little better. They're kind of hard to get perfect, I'm finding out. Now we're going to do the 3rd row. Take the 3rd largest strip of light and the 3rd smallest strip of dark, and we're going to go down the way and sew them all together. Now I'm going to trim these and iron them and find the center and attach it to the first 2 rows. Now that I know where the center is, and I still have my center folds on the other one, I'm going to match up my creases. And in between, I just kind of tug it a little bit if it needs, if one is slightly longer than the other, but these are pretty exact. Okay, let's go sew the next row together. Let's see if this row did any better. Yeah, they seem nice and centered. Okay, I'm going to iron the seams up just because that's what I did the last time. Okay, I hope you can see it coming together. And there's going to be a secondary pattern in this. If you turn it upside down, we're going to have a light Christmas tree on in between. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue sewing the rows together. We've just got 4 more to go. Yeah. And I'm just going to go ahead and sew all 4 of those together and pile them up here as I do them. And then we'll pin them together. That'll probably make it go a little faster. Now I have all my strips sewn together, and I've got the centers pinned on all of them. So I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and sew the lengthwise strips. I believe there's 3 more of them to sew, and then we'll look at it and see if it looks like what I had pictured in my head. that it's all sewn, I'm going to iron my seams real good, and then we'll flip it over and see what it looks like. But it looks kind of promising from this side. Okay, it does look like what I had pictured in my head. I'm so glad it worked out so I didn't have to trash this video and start over. But we have 3 dark Christmas trees, and then we have 2 light in the middle that are facing the opposite direction. And we're going to trim the ends to the shortest piece on both of these. So let's do that. I want to get it real straight on my cutting board. Now let's measure it and see what size it is so we know what size to cut our backing and our batting. I'm going to fold it in half because it's easier to measure that way. Okay, that's right at 24 inches, so it's 48 inches long. And looks about 13 inches tall. Okay, I'm going to go find a piece of fabric and to use for the backing and cut the backing and the batting. I'm going to cut the backing exactly 13 by 48, and I'm going to cut the batting a 1/2 inch smaller in each direction. Okay, I cut my backing to be the same size as the pieced top, 48 by 13, and with right sides together, I'm laying those down, and then I'm going to put my batting on. Try to get it all nice and straight. I cut my batting a little bit smaller, just because I don't like bulk in my seams. Now I'm going to take my 505 temporary adhesive spray, and remember, don't use too much of it because it'll gum up your needles and the overspray will get on everything in your sewing room. So you want to be very frugal with it. Okay, I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and put a 1/4 inch seam all the way around it, leaving an opening at the bottom that is big enough for my hand to go in. So 4 to 6. Now that I've gone all the way around the edge, I used about a 3/8 inch seam. I'm going to clip my corners before I turn it, so that they lay nice and smooth. Okay, here's where I left an opening, and now I'm going to turn it right side out. Now, if you would prefer to use binding on this, you could, but this was one we didn't have to, and so I just wanted to keep it simple because I want the projects on this channel to be simple enough for beginners whenever possible. Now I'm going to iron it, and then I'm going to quilt, stitch in the ditch just around the edges of the trees. Doesn't need any real fancy stitching, just enough to kind of hold it in place when it's washed. To pull out these corners real good. Now I'm going to iron our rest of our seam in here. And usually if you kind of give it a little tug, it'll fold in the way you need it to. Now I'm going to take it over the machine. I'm going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch all the way around, so that we, 1/8 to 1/4, so that we catch our seam here. And then I'm just going to stitch in the ditch on all the outside edges of the tree. Let me go do that and I'll meet you back here. Okay, we've got it all quilted. Steam it real good. Got a few loose threads to cut. And here's our tree skirt. I mean, not tree skirt. I'm sorry, our table runner with our 3 dark Christmas trees. But if you happen to be sitting on the other side of the table, you've got 2 light Christmas trees and half a tree on each end. You could decorate this by putting some little buttons for Christmas ornaments, and you could sew a little button star on the top if you want. Just remember, if you're going to have it on your table and have things sitting on it, a button might get in the way of what you're wanting to set on it. So I think I'm going to leave mine like this. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. It was kind of a shot in the dark for me because this was just in my head and I hadn't had the chance to stitch one up. So I'm glad that it mostly worked out. I cut off a couple of my points and didn't get all of my points perfect on here, but practice makes perfect, and so I'm pleased with it anyway. I'll take a big picture of it and stick it at the end of this video so you can see the whole thing, because I don't think you can get the whole thing in from where the camera's sitting now. All right, thank you for joining me. If you're new to the channel, I hope you will like, and if you're a returning person, if you're new to the channel, I hope you'll subscribe, and if you're a returning person, I hope you will like this video and leave me a comment. The next video I'm going to do is on a patchwork Christmas stocking, so be sure to be watching for that, and we'll tune in Wednesday is when it should be out. Okay, remember, whatever you do, do it to the glory of the Lord. Thank you.